The Kelthran sovereignty had mapped 47 star systems, established diplomatic relations with 12 sentient species, and perfected faster-than-light travel to the point where their vessels could cross the galaxy in weeks rather than years. They were, by any reasonable measure, a civilization at the height of its power. This made their current predicament all the more embarrassing. Repeat that. Navigator Thelkon, Fleet Coordinators Areth said, his crystalline cranial ridges darkening to deep violet, the Kelthran equivalent of a furrowed brow. The human vessel has locked weapons on our position, Thelkon replied, his six-fingered hands dancing across the holographic interface. Their communication suggests we have violated territorial boundaries. Zareth studied the main view screen, where a human ship hung in the black void like a predator waiting to strike. It was smaller than the Kelthran diplomatic cruiser Dawn of Accord, its hull covered in angular armor plating that gave it a brutalist, almost primitive appearance. Yet the 8 missile batteries now tracking their ship suggested the humans compensated for their lack of aesthetic refinement with overwhelming firepower. We are in neutral space, Zareth stated, as if logic alone could resolve the situation. The boundary coordinates were verified by 3 independent systems. The humans claim this is the outer defense perimeter of their colony Titan's Reach. Thelkon said, according to their transmission, any unannounced vessel within 20,000 kilometers constitutes a potential threat. 20,000. Zareth's ridges paled to nearly white. That is an absurdly large buffer zone. Do they claim sovereignty over empty vacuum? Apparently, they do. Zareth considered ordering an immediate retreat. The Dawn of Accord was a diplomatic vessel, lightly armed and designed for comfort rather than combat. But retreating from a misunderstanding would set a poor precedent for future relations with this species. The sovereignty did not back down from lesser civilizations, particularly ones that had only achieved interstellar travel within the last century. Open a channel, Zareth commanded. Let us speak with these territorial mammals. The view screen shifted, replacing the image of the human warship with the face of its commander. Zareth had reviewed the intelligence files on human physiology, the bilateral symmetry, the forward-facing eyes suggesting evolved predatory behavior, the startling lack of protective exoskeleton, but seeing one in real time was still disconcerting. The creature was female, her dark skin marked with small imperfections, her hair pulled back in a severe style that exposed her features. Most unsettling were her eyes, brown, intense, and fixed on him with an unnerving directness. This is Captain Eleanor Vasquez of the United Nations ship Endurance, the human said, her tone flat and professional. You are in violation of Titan's Reach defensive perimeter. Identify yourself and state your intentions, or we will interpret your presence as hostile. Zareth straightened in his command cradle, his ridges shifting through a formal diplomatic pattern. I am Fleet Coordinator Zareth of the Kelthran Sovereignty. We come on a mission of peaceful contact and scientific exchange. We were not aware our position constituted a territorial violation. Captain Vasquez's expression didn't change. Your intelligence is outdated. Titan's Reach established its extended perimeter for months ago after the Varn incident. All approaching vessels are required to transmit identification codes at least 1 hour before crossing the boundary. The Varn incident. Zareth felt his intellectual curiosity override his diplomatic caution. "We have no record of such an event. Raiders attacked one of our supply convoys," Vasquez said. "They used a false distress signal to bypass our defenses. 17 civilians died. We don't take chances anymore." Something in her voice had tightness. A hint of barely controlled emotion made Zareth pause. Humans, he remembered from the briefings, were intensely social creatures who formed deep bonds with their group members. The loss of 17 individuals might have affected this captain personally. "I extend our condolences for your loss," Zareth said carefully. "The Kelfaran sovereignty opposes all forms of piracy and lawless behavior. We did not intend to cause alarm." Vasquez studied him for a long moment. "Lower your shields and submit to a sensor scan. If you're clean, we'll escort you to the diplomatic station at Titan's Reach. You can make your formal introductions there." Zareth felt his ridges darken again. Lowering shields was a significant gesture of trust or submission. "That seems unnecessary given the peaceful nature of our— Those are the terms, coordinator." Vasquez's interruption was as precise as a blade cut. "Accept them or turn around and leave. You have 30 seconds to decide." Navigator Thelcon leaned close. "Fleet coordinator, their weapons are fully charged. I detect 17 different targeting locks on critical systems. They are not bluffing. 17 locks." The number seemed oddly specific until Zareth understood. One for each civilian killed in the Varn incident. The human captain was sending a message within a message, demonstrating both her crew's technical capability and their emotional motivation. It was simultaneously crude and elegant. "Lower shields," Zareth ordered. "Comply with their scan." The tension on the dawn of Accord's bridge was palpable as invisible human sensors swept across their hull, probing their systems with surprising sophistication. After 3 minutes that felt considerably longer, Captain Vasquez nodded. "You're clear. Follow the navigational beacon we're transmitting. Maintain current speed and bearing. Any deviation will be met with immediate defensive action." "Understood, Captain." Zareth kept his tone neutral. "Might I inquire about your vessel's designation?" "Endurance is an interesting choice. For the first time." Something that might have been amusement flickered across Vasquez's features. "It's named after Ernest Shackleton's ship. He was an Antarctic explorer who survived impossible conditions through sheer stubbornness. Every ship in our deep space fleet carries the name of a vessel or captain who refused to quit when logic said they should. A celebration of illogical persistence?" Zareth couldn't keep the puzzlement from his voice. "We call it something else." Vasquez's smile was thin and sharp. "Welcome to human space, coordinator. Try not to do anything stupid." The transmission ended. Zareth spent the 6-hour journey to Titan's Reach reviewing everything the sovereignty knew about humanity, which proved to be frustratingly incomplete. The species had emerged from a single planet Earth approximately 300,000 years ago, achieving technological civilization only in the last 10,000. They had nearly destroyed themselves multiple times through warfare, resource depletion, and environmental catastrophe, yet somehow survived each crisis through adaptation and innovation. Their military forces particularly puzzled Kelfaran analysts. Human naval doctrine emphasized redundancy, initiative at lower ranks, and what their manuals called aggressive defense. Ships carried multiple backup systems. Crew members cross-trained in various roles, and captains possessed shocking amounts of independent authority. It was the opposite of Kelfran military philosophy, which relied on centralized coordination and specialized expertise. Most puzzling was the nickname humans had given their navy, the Sleeping Leviathan. Intelligence analysts had flagged this designation as potentially significant, though its precise meaning remained unclear. A leviathan, according to human mythology, was a massive sea creature of immense power. But why sleeping? And why choose such an ominous metaphor for what humans claimed was a defensive force? Fleet Coordinator Falcon announced, "We are approaching Titan's Reach diplomatic station." The structure that appeared on the view screen was purely functional, a rotating cylinder providing artificial gravity through spin, with docking pylons extending like fingers from each end. No artistic elements, no aesthetic considerations, just efficient engineering. Somehow, that felt very human. The Endurance had accompanied them the entire journey, maintaining a respectful but vigilant distance. Now it moved ahead, transmitting docking instructions. Vasquez's face reappeared on the screen. "You'll dock at Pylon 7. A diplomatic team will meet you in receiving Bay 3. Ambassador Chen will handle formal introductions." She paused. "A word of advice, Coordinator. We humans have a saying, actions speak louder than words. What you do matters more than what you say. Remember that in your negotiations. Thank you, Captain Vasquez. Your guidance is appreciated. One more thing." Vasquez leaned forward slightly. "You're going to hear us refer to our navy as the Sleeping Leviathan. You'll probably think it's arrogance or propaganda. It's not. It's a warning." Her expression was unreadable. "Safe travels, Coordinator." Ambassador Chen was a small, elderly human with silver hair and eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. He greeted Zareth in the receiving bay with a bow, a human gesture of respect. That Zareth attempted to reciprocate, though his body's different articulation made the movement awkward. Fleet Coordinator Zareth, "Welcome to Titan's Reach. I apologize for the rough introduction. Captain Vasquez is an excellent officer, but she tends toward caution after recent events. The Van incident," Zareth said. "She mentioned civilian casualties." Chen's warm expression faltered. 17 dead, including children. It affected our people deeply. We are not accustomed to feeling vulnerable in our own territory. They walked through corridors that reminded Zareth of the Endurance functional, heavily reinforced, with emergency bulkheads visible every 20 meters. The station was built to survive catastrophic damage, compartmentalized like a warship rather than a diplomatic facility. "Your defensive preparations are extensive," Zareth observed. "We learned to plan for the worst." Chen replied, "Human history is one long lesson in expecting betrayal and preparing for disaster. It has made us perhaps overly suspicious, but it has kept us alive." They entered a conference room with windows overlooking the planet below. Titan's Reach was a terraformed world, still in early stages, with blue-green oceans just beginning to bloom with engineered algae. A human colony world, raw and new. yet already defended like a fortress. I must confess curiosity. Ambassador, Zareth said as they settled into seats the humans had thoughtfully provided a Keltheran-compatible. E-chair, your Navy's designation, the sleeping Leviathan. What does it signify? Chen poured tea from an ornate pot, the ritual precise and careful. Ah, you've encountered our little mystery. Tell me, Coordinator, what do you know of Earth's oceans? Very little. The sovereignty's files indicate. They cover approximately 70% of your homeworld's surface. Correct. And for most of human history, we knew almost nothing about them. The depths were unmapped, unexplored, a vast darkness full of unknown creatures. Chen sipped his tea. Our ancient sailors told stories of great beasts that lived in that darkness, leviathans. Creatures so large and powerful they could destroy ships with ease. Yet they slept in the deep places, undisturbed unless provoked. A metaphor for your military capability, Zareth said. You suggest your navy is powerful, but dormant. More than that, Chen set down his cup. The Leviathan doesn't hunt. It doesn't patrol the ocean looking for prey. It sleeps, hidden in depths no one can reach, bothering no one. But if you dive down into its territory, if you wake it up, if you threaten it or what it protects, he met Zareth's gaze. Then you discover exactly how terrible a Leviathan can be. A chill ran through Zareth's crystalline structure, not fear, precisely, but recognition of a fundamental truth about this species. A defensive posture with overwhelming offensive capability. We don't seek conflict, Coordinator. We've seen enough war, enough death, enough suffering in our own history. But we will end any threat to our people with absolute finality, if necessary. Chen's voice remained gentle, which somehow made the words more unsettling. That's what the sleeping Leviathan means. We don't want to wake up. We don't want to fight. But if you make us, you'll regret it. Silence filled the conference room. Through the windows, Zareth could see the Endurance in orbit, patient and watchful. How many other human ships waited in nearby systems, sleeping Leviathans all, quiet until needed? I believe, Zareth said slowly, that the sovereignty would benefit from deeper understanding of human culture and capabilities. Perhaps a joint exercise might demonstrate our respective approaches to security challenges? Chen smiled. An excellent suggestion. I'll arrange for you to observe our scheduled fleet exercises next week. They should prove educational. As Zareth left the conference room, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had just been given a warning wrapped in hospitality. The humans seemed friendly enough, even accommodating. But underneath the diplomatic courtesy lay something harder. Something ancient and scarred by endless conflict. The sleeping Leviathan, he thought. What happens when it wakes? He would find out soon enough. The observation deck of the UN's constellation offered panoramic views of the exercise zone. A volume of space to 100,000 kilometers across, marked by navigational buoys and sensor platforms. 7 human vessels had gathered for what Ambassador Chen called routine tactical drills. Those Zareth suspected nothing about human military doctrine qualified as routine. Impressive, Ray, Thelkon murmured beside him. The navigator had accompanied Zareth as technical observer, his expertise useful for analyzing human ship capabilities. Zareth had to agree. The vessels ranged from small corvettes barely larger, then the dawn of Accord to the massive dreadnought Indomitable, a kilometer-long warship bristling with weapons and armor. Each ship maintained precise formation, their coordination suggesting sophisticated networked command systems. Captain Vasquez appeared beside them, moving with the easy confidence of someone comfortable in her environment. Fleet Coordinator. Navigator, thank you for accepting our invitation. The opportunity is appreciated, Zareth replied. We are eager to observe human tactical doctrine firsthand. Then you're in for an interesting afternoon. Vasquez gestured toward the view screen. Wheel. Start with standard formation drills, nothing fancy. Just basic maneuvers to demonstrate ship handling. Then we'll run some combat simulations. Simulations? Thelcon S. Ridges brightened with interest. Your vessels will engage each other with simulation rounds. Yes, full power on engines and shields, but weapons fire is computer-generated. We track hits and damage virtually. Vasquez grinned. It's safer than using live ammunition and cheaper than replacing destroyed ships. The exercises began with geometric precision. The human fleet divided into two groups, executing formation changes with commendable coordination. Ships accelerated, decelerated, and pivoted in three-dimensional space with the fluid grace that came from extensive practice. Their maneuvering is adequate, Thelcon observed, though they maintain larger spacing than optimal efficiency would suggest. Vasquez overheard. We learned that lesson the hard way. Tight formations look impressive, but one lucky hit can cascade into multiple ship kills. Spreading out reduces our vulnerability to aerial effect weapons. A logical adaptation, Zareth admitted, though it must complicate your command and control systems. Each ship has significant autonomy. Vasquez explained, our captains don't wait for orders when the situation changes. They assess, adapt, and act. Central command provides strategic objectives, but tactics are often improvised. Improvised, there was that word again. That concept that seemed fundamental to human military thinking yet alien to Keltheran doctrine. The sovereignty's fleets operated like precision instruments, each component fulfilling its designated role according to carefully calculated plans. The humans seemed to celebrate chaos and initiative in equal measure. The exercises intensified. The two fleet divisions began mock combat, ships darting through space in patterns that became increasingly unpredictable. A human destroyer fainted, left, then burned hard right, coming up underneath an opposing cruiser maneuver that would have been impossible for a Keltheran vessel to calculate in real time. The cruiser responded by dumping ballast to suddenly decelerate, letting the destroyer overshoot before lighting up its engines for pursuit. Remarkable reaction time, Thelcon said. Are all your officers enhanced with neural accelerators? Vasquez laughed. No, just natural human reflexes and a lot of coffee. Our crews train constantly. We run drills until the responses become instinctive. But surely that introduces dangerous variations in performance. Zareth protested. Individual instinct is unreliable compared to algorithmic precision. Maybe, Vasquez's expression turned serious, but algorithms can be predicted, countered. Defeated by anyone with sufficient processing power, Human intuition-trained intuition is harder to counter because it's not entirely rational. We do things that don't make tactical sense but work anyway. On the view screen, a human frigate suddenly spun 180 degrees and fired its main engines. While moving backward, sliding through space in a direction no sane commander would choose. The pursuing vessels overshot, expecting the frigate to decelerate forward. By the time they corrected, the frigate had killed 2 of them with simulated missile strikes. That maneuver violated basic physics. Falcon protested. No, Vasquez corrected gently. It violated basic tactics. Physics was fine with it. That's the difference. Zareth was preparing a response when every alarm on the observation deck shrieked simultaneously. The transition from exercise to emergency happened in heartbeats. The relaxed atmosphere on the Constellation's bridge evaporated as officers rushed to their stations. Captain Vasquez was moving before Zareth even processed what the alarms meant. Her casual demeanor replaced by focused intensity. "Report," she snapped. Multiple contacts emerging from jump at Sector 47. The sensor officer called out. 18 vessels, mass consistent with cruiser to battleship range. They're not transmitting IFF codes. Pirates, Vasquez said flatly. She touched her communicator. All ships. This is Constellation Actual. Red alert. Unknown vessels approaching exercise zone. Assume hostile intent. Formation Delta 7. Execute immediately through the viewports. Zareth watched the human fleet transform. Ships that had been engaged in mock combat seconds ago now moved with unified purpose, spreading into a defensive formation that placed the largest vessels at the perimeter and smaller ships in protected interior positions. Pirates, Zareth found his voice in sovereignty-monitored space. Welcome to the frontier. Coordinator. Vasquez was studying tactical displays that painted the approaching fleet in harsh red icons. This far from Earth, law enforcement gets thin. Raiders know we run exercises here. Probably figured they could catch us with our guard down. 18 ships against 7. Falcon S. Ridges paled. Fleet Coordinator. We should contact the Dawn of Accord and prepare for emergency jump. Already done, Zareth said, though his attention remained fixed on the view screen. The pirate vessels were decelerating hard, their formation ragged but determined. Captain Vasquez. What is your tactical assessment? They outnumber us better than 2-1, and several of those ships are as heavy as our dreadnought. Vasquez's jaw tightened. We're outgunned. Then you will retreat. This was logical, Zareth thought. Kelfran doctrine was explicit when faced with superior force. Withdrawal and regrouping was the optimal strategy. Vasquez looked at him with an expression he couldn't interpret. Coordinator, see that debris field at bearing 180? Zareth followed her gesture to a region of space marked by scattered wreckage. Yes, that used to be a civilian transport. The pirates hit it 2 hours ago, killed everyone aboard, and stripped the cargo. 300 people dead for whatever supplies they could steal. Her voice was cold. Control fury. We don't retreat from pirates. We end them. But the tactical situation is about to change. Vasquez opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships. This is Vasquez. I know what the numbers look like. I know this seems like a losing fight, but those bastards murdered 300 civilians this morning, and they're not leaving this system alive. We're going to do what humans do best. We're going to improvise, adapt, and overcome. Battle plan is simple: no retreat, no surrender, no mercy. Hit them with everything we have and don't stop until they're scrap. Constellation out. A ragged cheer echoed from the human crew. Zareth stared at Vasquez in disbelief. Captain, this is suicide. Your duty is to preserve your ships and crews, not throw them away in hopeless gestures. My duty, Vasquez said quietly, is to make sure those pirates never kill anyone else. Watch and learn, Coordinator. You're about to see why we call ourselves the Sleeping Leviathan. The pirate fleet opened fire first. Missiles and energy weapons lanced across the void, targeting the human dreadnought Indomitable. The logical choice, Zareth thought: eliminate the heaviest opponent first. The Indomitable didn't evade. Instead, it charged directly into the incoming fire, its shields flaring as it absorbed hits that would have destroyed a lesser vessel. Behind it, the rest of the human fleet scattered, each ship choosing a different vector, different target, different approach. They've broken formation, Falcon gasped. Their defensive coordination is gone. No, Zareth realized, they've changed tactics. Each ship is now independent. It was chaos incarnate. The corvette Relentless dove under the pirate formation, its smaller size allowing it to maneuver through gaps in their defensive fire. The frigate Defiant executed that same impossible backward-sliding maneuver from the exercise, confusing to pirate cruisers long enough to rake them with close-range weapons. The destroyer Valiant appeared to flee, drawing 3 pursuers after it then reversed thrust and met them head-on, accepting terrible damage to its forward sections. While its aft batteries opened up at point-blank range. They're insane, Falcon whispered. Every tactical manual in the Sovereignty Library would condemn these decisions. Yes, Zareth agreed, unable to look away. They are illogical, inefficient, and somehow working. The Indomitable reached the pirate formation's heart. At that range, its massive weapons had devastating effect. To pirate battleships simply ceased to exist, vaporized by concentrated fire. But the dreadnought was taking catastrophic damage, its shields flickering as dozens of weapons hammered at its hull. Constellation. This is Indomitable, a comm voice said over the communicator. We're at 40% hull integrity and dropping. Main weapons offline. We're going to do this the old-fashioned way. Confirmed, Indomitable, Vasquez replied. Give them hell. The dreadnought accelerated, not away from the pirates, but toward their flagship, a massive vessel that dwarfed even the Indomitable. Zareth understood the intention with horrifying clarity. They're going to ram it, he said. Yes, Vasquez confirmed, her eyes never leaving the tactical display. The collision happened at relativistic speeds. The Indomitable struck the pirate flagship amidships, and both vessels came apart in an expanding sphere of debris and radiation. The explosion was so massive it temporarily blinded the Constellation's sensors. When they cleared, 5 pirate vessels remained, and they were trying to flee. The human fleet pursued with mechanical precision, cutting down each ship before it could reach minimum jump distance. The corvette Relentless, its hull scorched and venting atmosphere from 3 breaches, managed to bracket a fleeing cruiser with missile fire. The frigate Defiant, reduced to half power and missing its entire port weapons array, crippled another pirate with a suicidally close-range torpedo run. 15 minutes after the battle began, it ended. 18 pirate vessels destroyed. 4 human ships survived, 2 corvettes, 1 frigate, and the Constellation itself, which had remained at the battle's edge providing command and control. The Indomitable and 2 other vessels were gone, their crews dead to the last sailor. The observation deck was silent except for the soft beeping of status displays. Vasquez stood motionless, staring at the debris fields that marked where her comrades had died. You sacrificed 3 ships to destroy an enemy you could have escaped, Zareth said quietly. By any logical standard, this was a Pyrrhic victory. We killed them all, Vasquez replied, her voice hoarse. Every pirate who murdered those civilians is dead. They'll never threaten anyone again. She turned to face him, and Zareth saw tears tracking down her face. You asked what the sleeping Leviathan means, Coordinator. This is it. We don't start fights. We don't want to fight. But once you wake us up, once you make us your enemy, we will burn our own ships and spend our own lives to ensure you never hurt anyone else. We will pay any price, accept any sacrifice, endure any horror to protect what's ours. That is illogical, Zareth said, but his voice lacked conviction. Maybe, Vasquez wiped her eyes. But it's who we are. It's what we've always been. Every dictator, every warlord, every empire that's tried to conquer or exterminate humanity has learned the same lesson. We don't quit. We don't surrender. We will fight until we win or until we're extinct. And we will drag you down with us if necessary. Through the viewport, Zareth watched recovery teams move among the debris, searching for survivors they both knew wouldn't be found. The pirate fleet was destroyed, yes, but the cost had been devastating. Yet looking at Vasquez's face, at the set of her jaw and the fire in her eyes, he understood that she would make the same choice again without hesitation. I need to write a report to the Sovereignty, Zareth said. Tell them the truth, Vasquez said. Tell them humanity is dangerous. Tell them we're irrational, that we make tactical decisions no sane species would consider. Tell them we're willing to die to protect our own. She paused. And tell them that makes us the worst possible enemy anyone could choose. Zareth returned to the dawn of accord with Navigator Thelcom, his mind churning with implications. The report he would send would change everything about how the Sovereignty viewed humanity. They weren't just another spacefaring species to be catalogued and monitored. They were something unique, something dangerous. They were the sleeping Leviathan. And the galaxy had just learned what that meant. The emergency session of the Keltheran High Council convened via holographic link. 17 crystalline forms shimmering into existence around the council chamber's perimeter. Zareth stood at the center, his ridges carefully neutral despite the tension radiating from the assembled leaders. Your report was disturbing, Fleet Coordinator, High Counselor Mareth said, her ancient ridges deeply scored with centuries of experience. You witnessed human vessels sacrifice themselves against numerically superior forces, You describe tactical decisions that defy strategic logic. You suggest this species represents a fundamental threat to galactic stability, not a threat. High Counselor, Zareth corrected carefully, a variable. The humans do not seek conquest or expansion through force, but they respond to threats. With disproportionate violence and apparent disregard for their own survival, which makes them unpredictable. Councillor Velruth's ridges darkened with concern. Unpredictability is dangerous, indeed. Mareth's attention focused fully on Zareth. You recommend the sovereignty avoid conflict with humanity at all costs. Explain your reasoning. Zareth had spent 3 days composing his thoughts, reviewing sensor logs, and analyzing every aspect of what he'd witnessed. Now he chose his words with precision. The human concept of the sleeping Leviathan is not propaganda or posturing. It is an accurate self-assessment of their military psychology. They are a species shaped by constant existential threat predators on their homeworld. Climate disasters, resource scarcity, and centuries of internecine warfare. They have survived by developing to critical traits, extreme adaptability, and absolute refusal to surrender. He activated a holographic display showing the battle footage. Observe this engagement. By all tactical calculations, the humans should have withdrawn. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and facing an enemy they could have escaped. Instead, they chose total commitment. Every ship engaged. Every captain made independent decisions. They improvised solutions to tactical problems in real time, often violating standard doctrine to achieve unexpected results. The Council watched as the Indomitable rammed the pirate flagship, both vessels disintegrating in mutual destruction. "This is suicide," Velruth protested. "No," Zareth said quietly. "This is mathematics." The Indomitable's captain calculated that sacrificing his ship would eliminate the enemy's most powerful asset and demoralize the remaining pirates. He was correct. After the flagship's destruction, pirate coordination collapsed. The humans achieved total victory at the cost of 3 vessels and approximately 700 lives. 700 deaths for 18 destroyed ships, another counselor observed. An efficient exchange ratio. You missed the point. Zareth's ridges darkened with emphasis. The humans did not calculate exchange ratios. They committed to battle because they perceived a moral imperative that pirates had killed civilians. Therefore, the pirates must die. Logic, efficiency, even survival became secondary to that single driving purpose. Mareth leaned forward, her ancient eyes reflecting the chamber's ambient light. "You fear their moral absolutism. I fear their effectiveness when combined with moral certainty," Zareth clarified. "The sovereignty has encountered many warrior species. We understand militarism, aggression, territorial expansion. The humans are different. They don't fight for conquest or resources. They fight for principles, for abstract concepts like justice and vengeance and protection. And they will accept any cost to uphold those principles." He paused, letting the implications sink in. If the sovereignty were to threaten human interests even accidentally, even through miscommunication, they would not negotiate, not retreat, not seek diplomatic resolution. They would fight. and they would not stop fighting until either we were destroyed or they were extinct. Mutually assured destruction would not deter them because they have already demonstrated willingness to die for their beliefs. The chamber fell silent. Finally, Mareth spoke. "What do you recommend?" "Alliance," Zareth said simply, "or at minimum, peaceful coexistence with clear boundaries. The humans seek neither tribute nor submission. They ask only to be left alone to develop on their own terms. In exchange, they offer nothing except the certainty that any species attacking them will face an enemy that never surrenders, never negotiates, and never stops fighting." "That sounds like extortion," Velruff objected. "It's reality," Zareth countered. "The sleeping Leviathan doesn't demand anything. It simply exists, vast and terrible, in the deep places. But if you wake it, if you threaten it, it will destroy you. That's not a threat, it's a natural law." 6 weeks later, Zareth found himself back at Titan's Reach, this time as the sovereignty's official ambassador to humanity. The diplomatic station had expanded, adding new docking facilities and conference centers. The human colony below had grown as well. Its